So, and this is again, I mentioned this earlier, but I think it bears mentioning again here. It's not like saying, "Hey, I kind of just feel this in my heart, therefore I'm following this path."
Yeah.
It's really quite the opposite of that. But what I find fascinating is that culturally, and I wonder if you had the same context before you became a Christian. It's the idea that people who would adopt this faith, who would become Christians, are people who had to subjugate their rational faculties to a feeling they have inside.
Yeah.
In your case, you keep coming at it by a chain of logic that says that this is the best explanation for all of this stuff.
You know, I do envy, though, people who are not always wrestling with these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are people I know who have been Christians for as long as they can remember, and they are true Christian brothers and sisters who love God, love Jesus, are saved, and have experiences of their faith that I envy. Because for me, it's just the copy of me that always says, really? You know, because if you believe everybody, and you believe every feeling that's out there, no one goes to jail. You just bump around from one feeling to another. It's doubting everyone. It's doubting everything that's ever said to you that eventually ends up in someone going to jail. It's suspicion, constantly being suspicious, never just allowing yourself to feel that stuff. And that's why a lot of the cops you meet who've been doing this for 25 years, it can hurt you, it can change you. So I didn't know any other way to believe this or anything else. I couldn't feel my way into this because that's just not what we do. And I had no interest in that. I often say I'm not a Christian because it works for me. Because I'll be honest, it doesn't work for me. I don't think it works for anybody really, if they would really analyze it. Is this the easiest life you could ever live? No. It's easy to throw the dart on the wall and just draw the bullseye around wherever the dart lands, okay? It's much harder to have the bullseye there first. And for the years that I was not a Christian, I was the only God that Jim ever had. So if you asked Jim, how's your day going? How's your year? It's great. Well, by whose standard? By mine. I'm the only standard I have to meet.
Right.
You know, it's hard to be a hypocrite when no one really knows your fuzzy standard that always moves back and forth because your standard is you. It's easy to call out the hypocrite when the standard is incredibly high and public. So I would expect everyone who is a Christian to eventually be called out as a hypocrite. Well, first of all, we're all hypocrites, but no one is as public a hypocrite as the Christian because everyone knows our standard. It's this Jesus of Nazareth standard. Oh my gosh, forget about it. I'm always going to fail according to that standard. I can't even hold up. I disagree with myself half the time. How am I going to hold up to that standard? But I think that the years before I was a Christian were in some ways easier years to live, more convenient years to live. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to put myself last. I was always in the first position. It was all about me. Now I'm called to something different, the more difficult life. The life that says that stuff doesn't matter. The stuff that we're kind of told by the culture we should chase, the stuff we should chase, careers, houses, properties, the perfect relationships. These are things now that have been put on their ear, that have been turned upside down. Now I see the proper role. What am I called to be? Who am I called to be? What really matters? Do you have a temporary perspective that talks about how good will this year be? Or do I have an eternal perspective that really measures things in light of eternity? It's a very different way to live. And I think it's counterintuitive. Yeah. And it's difficult. So it doesn't always work. If what you mean by work is that you're going to have your best life now. You're going to have you're going to have the best year you could possibly have. Well, this is not what Jesus called us to. You see it all the time in Scripture. Hey, they're already coming after me, guys. You're next. They're going to come after you too. You got to pick this cross and carry it. It's going to be the same for all of you. This is not an easy life. Get ready to lose it all. And unless you're willing to say, I will lose it all, you can't be part of this. Because you'll always be holding on to something you're going to call God instead of God. And so I realized I'm not a Christian because it works in that sense, or because I was raised in a Christian family, because I wasn't, or because I really was hoping for heaven, or afraid of hell, because those things just don't animate me, or because I had this train wreck I was trying to correct, to get back on the rails, because I didn't have a bad, I had a great life before. I actually think that in some ways this is harder because the stuff I used to celebrate, once I realized that God existed and that Jesus did this for me, I now sometimes still struggle with sin, still struggle with my sinful nature. The only difference is that now I wrestle with it because I know the Spirit is kind of woken up. We talk about being woke. Yeah, I'm woke in the sense that I know what is right and wrong. And way before, I defined right and wrong before. Now I realize that's not my definition. It's harder to live this life, especially in a culture that is more and more hostile toward the teaching of Jesus. And the true fact is it's not going to get any better. People will say, oh, I don't mind Jesus. It's Christians or it's Christianity. Well, okay. You can't love Jesus and hate his teaching. And what we have right now is a culture that sometimes says they love Jesus, but not all of his teaching. Well, if we're going to be faithful, and what helps me to be faithful is knowing that it's true. Let me put it to you this way, I think it's clear. I had a case years ago where a guy was in a bulletproof vest. We all wear bulletproof vests. We know they stop bullets because we've seen them stop bullets in the range. So we wear these in every shift under our shirts. And one day he pulls over this drunk driver, and the drunk driver gets out of the car, and the drunk driver had a gun in his waistband, and the officer didn't know it, and the drunk driver decided that day he was going to kill the officer. So he pulled his gun out, and he pointed it at the officer. And the officer was just far enough away, he couldn't do a gun takeaway, he couldn't do anything. He stood there, and he told me afterwards, because I'm working officer-involved shootings at the time, he told me afterwards, I didn't know what to do. I thought about a couple of options in that split second. I could duck behind the car, I could hit the deck, I could just charge him. But I decided instead, because I knew I was wearing my vest, just to take the first couple of rounds and get my own gun out and get involved in the gunfight. And I thought when I heard that story, wow, that's a guy who doesn't just have belief that, he has belief in, because he's about to trust that vest to do what he knows it can do. And the only reason why he's doing that, I think, is because, like me, he has seen that vest stop bullets. So why do I continue to take this approach toward my Christian faith? Because if you know the vest can stop bullets, can answer every objection, you're far more likely to stand calmly in the battle. And what's really great about it is it affects your character. So you ever notice how Chihuahuas are really noisy? Yeah. They're constantly barking. You get them in a yard full of dogs, they think they have to constantly like puff up and be the big dog in the yard because they're so small, right? Meanwhile, a Great Dane walks in the yard, doesn't make a noise, just walks and he owns the yard from the time he steps in. Well, what happens if we don't see Christianity as the big worldview that can hold up to the battle, we're going to be like Chihuahuas, always barking, always hoping that somebody will think that we're bigger than we are. If we saw that this thing can stop bullets, then in that gunfight, we're just going to stand still and be calm. I don't need to overreact. He didn't overreact. He didn't panic. He just said, okay, tonight I'm trusting the vest. And he only got there because he had good evidence to support his belief that the vest would stop bullets. So I think that's what I really hope that all of us, as we kind of examine evidence, that we, number one, have more confidence, two, allow it to change our character in the challenge, and three, we have moved from belief that to belief in.